Are we good? Okay, whoop, I didn't get my paperwork, but I'm going to assume that,
This paperwork? Yeah, these are being passed out.
yeah,
Further passing them out.
I'm saying the outline for the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I'll look it up on here.
Oh, you're talking about the agenda? Do you want an agenda here?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I follow everything correctly. All right, we're going to call this meeting to order at 11:29, and I will make sure that we get this in timely fashion to make up for the next one. Okay, let's first go with the Pledge of Allegiance. Julie, would you like to lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, please. I. 12. God.
Dean Schlattman. Hickey. Here. Logan. Present. Newquist. Here. Winfrey. Butler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Next, we're gonna do approval of minutes. Can I get a motion for the minutes? Okay. Do I have to say what minutes they are or no? Just everybody knows?
You need a second.
Get a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
You have to do
Aye.
a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, first one. Roll call.
Hickey.
Abstain.
Logan. Newquist.
Yes.
Winfrey. Butler.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. First order of business here. Okay. So this is, we classified this as a, I'm not sure what this. Okay, old business, refer, final recommendations to the executive committee. I know that, we have provided the, resolution. We talked about it last month. I believe that as soon as we give this recommendation, that this committee will be dissolved. So we're gonna take a vote. Can I get a motion to refer this to the executive committee? Or or is it to the board? When the ad hoc committee,
Executive committee.
executive committee? Okay.
I'll move it. So moved.
Second, Newquist, but I have a question.
Discussion.
Yeah.
Go.
You got it, Dominica.
Not having been part of the committee previously, I just had a quick question about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth, whereas each township will match contributions up to $5 for this service. Is that, I'm assuming that townships have to opt into this, correct? It will be at the discretion of the township?
So I believe what we're talking about here is the service using the rideshare
Right,
services.
yeah,
And that would be to implement extra programming above what's already there. Like, we have rideshare already. It's been
Right.
around for 20 years. Okay, but what we're trying to do is.
this refers to the Uber situation.
I'm trying to just explain it in a
Sorry.
broad sense. Okay, so what we want to do is enhance. So two areas of enhancement are, one, we want to be able to not have people waiting like at doctor's offices
Right.
after 30 minutes, okay? And the second, and this is where this money applies, which is not being covered now, so it's new, is if they needed to go a further distance.
Hmm.
So those services aren't currently being,
Right, but it says
offered.
the township will pay.
yeah.
So I'm assuming townships have to opt into this
Yes.
program? That's my question, actually.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, let's see, hang on a second here.
Thank you, Chair Butler. So I don't have my notes because I didn't realize that it would be, the agenda didn't specify what recommendations you were reviewing. So I didn't bring my notes, but what I want to ask you about is on the second page, the package, thank you, the paragraph that indicates they have a $288,000 transportation fund, allowing for a $1,000 monthly contribution to every township enrolled in the Will Ride question. So this is my question. At the full county board meeting, I asked about the plan, the future plan to expand this program to the other townships that were not brought into it. This agreement, Member Newquist, I believe, applies to a designated number of townships that have already been identified. It is not open to other townships to just say, hey, I want to participate, put me in it. For example, Wheatland Township, it is not included in this plan. My members in my township, they'll drop people off in Wheatland Township. But if a Wheatland Township resident calls and says, I'd like a ride, Will County, this service is not available to them. I asked that question in the full board meeting, and that was the answer. No, we cannot provide the service to Will County residents. However, we will drive other people to Wheatland Township and pick them up. But the township and its residents are not part of this plan. And then that leads me to my second question, which I never got a response from. What is the plan to expand this program so that every township in the county has the ability to participate in it? Because there's a void in northern Will County. And that's my biggest concern right now.
Can I, oh, are you ready? Okay. So, I'm new at all this writing of this stuff, and I know in government, less is better. So maybe I should not have put out numbers, but I was trying to, give ideas. And I believe this shouldn't really be considered as much a resolution as a recommendation, These are recommendations from this committee to go to the executive committee and the executive to further enhance Will Ride. What this is basically suggesting is we don't want a single transportation. We want a regional, and we want to work with all of our regional partners. And because there's some, like in Lockport, that, if we made it one organization, they might have to end up paying more than they pay now. They've got a grandfathered deal in that works very well for them. But this should apply regionally. That's what we're saying in here. And I don't know if this committee, I don't know that we want to take a stance where we're making a resolution like this is the way we want it, or a recommendation for the next committee to kind of elaborate on it and let all the folks at the transportation who, work with this, some of these details got to be worked out. Like when I say $5 here, $5 a township, $5 for the county, and I put in a $288,000 budget. I don't know if all those numbers are going to be exactly right, but it's a framework. You know what I mean? And it would be the executive's, transportation, division to kind of work out all those details. These are just some of the main ideas that we're going to recommend and suggest that they follow. So I don't think that this is going to be like law. It's not, at least not the way I interpret it, right? These are recommendations for the county here. They would, and what they do is they address problems as we seen this committee, well, some of this committee has seen from people who have come in to express their concerns and their likes and dislikes of their current will ride systems and figure out a way to address them. And then what our concerns are about the taxpayers at large, because Will County is a very diverse county. It's like no other county. I don't think any other county can be compared to Will County. That's the one thing that I learned from the survey that they got, that no other county is like us. We are literally, the top is heavily populated and the bottom is not. It's very all agricultural. Okay, so what in these recommendations, what we don't want to see is a broad-based tax, being applied to everybody and then being really used more in one area than the other. What we're trying to do is try to work with regional systems and kind of let them tailor it to their needs and have them have equal pay or equal share in the responsibilities of that as far as like an overall tax structure or, we don't want people, say in Green Garden Township, to have to pay the same amount of taxes for transportation as the ones in Lake Lockport, even though it's a really good deal, which no one else will have. Nobody else does have that. But they had one person use their system 7 times the whole year. So why would they want to pay all these taxes to do that? But at the same time, we want to have a county fund and some monies being put towards that. But we just want to work with the regional partners to enhance their programs to make it better. Quite honestly, the ones where there's more population, it's much easier, okay? Because they can have buses running all the time. But in areas where it's very sparsely populated, it's not as easy, okay? So it's tricky, okay? Sorry if I talk too much about that, but. Oh.
Okay, so.
9.
Thank you. So this resolution, when it specifies the county will provide $288,000 to a transportation fund. And I think I understand now the purpose of the resolution. You are not referring to the existing will ride plan that came before the county board and was adopted. These are additional new funds. Okay, so here's my question. That's a budgeting item. I mean, the budget has already been done and we do not do the budget for every department. They work with our staff, they come forward. We start the process in a few months. So I guess my question is can we issue a resolution and just say we need to find $288,000 and we have to create a new fund? I don't think we've ever done that before.
Thought I did, but
Yeah,
I'll
you did.
I'll say it
You
one
said
more time.
that.
Okay. Do I have to should I ask that this wording be amended or I honestly, when I tried to get this recommendation that it should have been offered. I shouldn't have wrote resolution, I don't think. I wanted to make a recommendation. The purpose of an ad hoc committee is to research a problem, try to hear all parts, try to come up with a good solution and offer
Yeah.
it to the next, executive committee so they can make a determination, not for us to make a
Okay.
determination. So I believe that, maybe
Dan, let me
referring to
finish.
this as a resolution, we should change it to a recommendation. Did I say that?
Yeah.
All right? All right.
Chair Butler, we can do that before the next, whatever the board decides, we can change the language just by removing the whereas is, and just change it into recommendation format.
Or say, instead of
Yeah.
saying resolution, just say recommendation, supporting.
Yes, absolutely. We'll do that. We'll have it
And-
prepared for you.
And can I, so I love this. I love the intent and the goal that you have here. My question was about the proper process and, so thank you for making that change. A resolution, wasn't really the way to proceed with this. But may I ask, I'm not on this committee, But what I'd like to see included in here is the ability to include the other townships in the county. And I think that's important. If we have an opportunity to provide feedback, if we
I'm
can,
gonna, I know we have a couple questions, but just for
Yeah.
clarity, I'm gonna ask if Elaine will come up here. I have a couple, if you don't mind, it's not gonna be tough. Just a couple questions here to clarify, because maybe some of the wording on here was, so what we. All right, so Elaine, should we be talking at Access Will County if we're talking about all of Will County? And then Will County, when I say will ride, is that more specific to this southeastern region?
Member Butler, I'm going to be very honest. I don't really know what you're asking. Because it's been a while since I've looked at this. I think this was a resolution that you guys had all put forward back in the fall, correct? So like I just gave a quick skim of it in the fall. I haven't fully read it.
Let
So
me clarify the question.
Please.
Okay, so when we talk about implementing some sort of program that will affect the entire county
okay.
and not just the southern southeast quadrant, which is, traditionally been called Will Ride? Is that correct?
Will Ride was the historical name of our dial-a-ride system that operated on the eastern portion of the county. We have rebranded. We are now Access Will County. So
Okay.
if you're talking about specifically the dial-a-ride program administered by Will County, that is Access Will County.
Okay, thank you. That is exactly, so maybe we
Perfect.
should change the wording in here. Instead of it calling it Will Ride, call it Access Will County. Is that,
Just access Wood County. So we access. County.
does that make sense? Okay. Now,
System.
can I amend it?
As a committee member, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you. I don't know if that's what you had in writing.
Wait, hang on a second. Let me get you there. Number 4. Whoops.
So are any of these numbers real? Like the $5 from the customer and the
$5 is kind of figured on a 10-mile
but
trip one way.
do we even know if the township contribution and the rider contribution covers the cost of the ride? Was that the intent?
It
Was
was
this just?
figured on a 10-mile ride.
Okay, and the 288,000, I would think that needs to go through the budget process. So, I mean, I think these are worthy goals, but I mean, other things like the county will guarantee return rides for the elderly will, with a waiting period, not exceeding 30 minutes. We don't even know if that's possible. I mean, I know in Bloom Township, which is just what I'm familiar with, which is why I bring it up, is there were frequently times when riders had to wait more than 30 minutes. I mean, it was a goal, probably not in Bloom, but it was a goal. But I mean, there are things out of their control, like does their doctor appointment go over? Is their doctor late? Which messes up the whole schedule, which means you got to redo the whole pickup schedule. So, I mean, there's so many variables. And I think, like I said, these are worthy goals, but I really think that's how they should be approached, as goals.
So I hear you. And the idea that, when somebody schedules an appointment, an elderly person needs to schedule a doctor's appointment, and they say their appointment's at 11 and that they need a return pickup at 12. Their appointment, because it was overcrowded, whatever, went to 12:30. They have to reschedule. It could take up to 3 hours for that person to get back. That's when you have like Uber, that's the funding, the extra funding that we're trying to put on top of it, so that those people don't have to wait 3 hours. They can, when that's happened and it is, out of their control, that we would have a way for Uber to come and pick them up, so they didn't have to wait that time.
A worthy goal.
And
That's-
I know, but Uber is, 30 minutes is a long time for an Uber wait. I mean, it really is. So, and again, these are recommendations. You know, so we should probably change the language from resolution to recommendation. And then we should use it for enhancing access Will County, not Will Ride. Because being from the southeastern, I call everything Will Ride. Sorry, don't mean to be selfish or, think that the world revolves around me, but I just think of it that way, but it's not. And as Elaine clarified. So, good points. And I think you're correct. This shouldn't be in a resolution. These are recommendations and guidelines set up. I think everybody liked them. I'm not trying to dictate policy here, just trying to make recommendations based off our meetings over the past year. Let's see. I think it was Kelly, and then Denise. Let me see. 6.
Thank you, Chair Butler. I would really like to address a couple of things. First of all, if I could address what Member Berkowitz said about Wheatland Township. Wheatland Township is already served by Ride DuPage, and we have partnerships that cover things like Ride to Work and other things that are going to have to be things that are worked out should they participate in Access Well. I think that is a to be determined kind of situation. I've talked to the supervisor there. I've talked to the deputy chief of staff, and I think that we're just going to have to kind of trust the process there a little bit, that we're going to find the best answer for the residents there. So I do appreciate that. My second point is more, I'm more concerned, and so this is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I so appreciate the time and effort that you have put into that, and I am saying that with all sincerity, because this is something that we all need to be looking at, because we're all one accident or illness away from needing someone to drive us somewhere. So that being said, I do have a more overarching concern, which is just talking about the historical program of Will Ride versus Access Will, which is what we all voted to move forward. This document, and whether it's a recommendation or a resolution, it looks like, I think it's the 9th whereas the implementation of a centralized mass transportation system would impose additional costs on taxpayers throughout Will County, diverting funds from crucial local services and initiatives. That to me, and please tell me if I'm misinterpreting this, that sounds to me like we're saying in the same breath, we're endorsing Access Will and trying to refine it and point out problems that are truly problems that I heard a lot when I was at the township level working with PACE. But in the same breath, we're saying, but we don't want to have a centralized program. So that's where I don't know, can we make a recommendation? And maybe this is for the state's attorney, can we make a recommendation to overturn a program that we already approved? Is that possible?
So let's just say we're not overturning anything. And there are already regional programs in place. So the busing and the regional programs are already in place, and we're not talking about overturning anything. What we're talking about is Access Will County, instead of becoming a single transportation that forces every township to be part of it, that it is an enhancement of already tailor-made programs for different regions. And, I say Lockport a lot because it's 5 townships that have a very good system that they were the most happy. They really got it worked out well, which I think they could be a model for others, but we don't want to take that away. There are other townships that don't want to be part of our transportation system at all. So, we have to take those people into consideration as well. And we're just trying to, remember, this has to be tailor fit for a county that is like no other in Illinois. Most counties are either, mostly agricultural or mostly urban, so none of them are quite like us. So we have to do it a little bit different. And so we look at access, this, you know, the way I looked at it was Access Will County is an enhancement to these programs. So in a sense, Access Will County is a centralized addition to these regional programs, but it doesn't control everything. And the amount of taxation that would be involved would be proportional to each township's use of that system. So township in Green Gardens, that one person used it 7 times, would not be paying as much transportation costs as, say, you know, Homewood or not Homewood, but Frankfurt. I was thinking of West Homewood, so.
May I respond?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I have not heard, and I talk to the Wheatland Township Supervisor pretty often, and I have never heard him refer to this as being forced to participate in this. And so I just want to put that out there. I don't think that that is the intent, and I'm sorry, can I ask you to come back up? Debbie? Just to clarify, while it's to create a centralized system, we're going to figure these things out as time goes on, correct?
Okay.
sorry.
I thought I wasn't running the meeting anymore, so I just can't tune that off.
You know, I am more than happy to respond to that. We have been talking about Dial-A-Ride in front of this board for 2 years. You know, we've been talking about this at this Access Ad Hoc for a long time, and I've said it multiple times. I'm going to continue to say it because the words that I say have meaning and I stand behind them. I will never force a township. We would never force a township to be involved in this program. What we've been doing has been having conversations. And if someone's interested, we start taking next steps. But there's nothing of, you know, we're rolling in saying you need to be a part of this. Absolutely not.
Okay,
We would never do that.
thank you. I appreciate that. So
Just a question, if I may. So, how much money currently does the executive get for this program? How much is in the budget? Oh,
Just being a problem child for you, Member Butler, sorry. Are you asking like total cost of the program or total
well,
like amount of?
I believe last year there was like, $200,000 in the budget for
So
this.
you're asking how much of the actual Will County levy?
I'm asking how much was set aside for this transportation project? I believe last year it was like 200,000.
So
Is that correct or not?
last year, I believe it was 200,000.
And what is it this year?
This year, I believe it is,
300,000?
it gets, I'm having a hard time exactly answering it because the way that the funding of it is
Has
structured,
it increased
is-
since last year?
yes.
Okay, so
because the-
please don't, you know, anytime a budget goes up, you know, it involves taxpayers. So indirectly, that money gets spread out through Will County. Anytime money is given to the executive for a budget for something. So we always have to recognize that. Nothing is for free. So when the service is being provided, it's not us who pay for it, but the taxpayers. So just to clarify that.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I can go back, thank you so much. I'm sorry to keep calling you up here, but I heard what you said and I still have a question because I feel that what I'm reading here is saying that we don't want a centralized system, but by definition, Access Will is a centralized system. So it would be really easy to just say, yep, let's send this forward. And I get that. But I think that you truly had things that you wanted to accomplish. And I truly want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that isn't just like, you know, throwing our hands up at this duty. So that's why I'm asking and drilling down on this. So I don't think that we can have 9 in here at all because it seems to say that there isn't that we both want a program and don't want a program. It's kind of the Schrodinger's cat of resolutions.
So I get where you're going with this. I don't agree with it, but if you want to put a motion on the floor and, you know, I mean, I'm not the end to that, so if you want to put a motion out there saying, I honestly, I see it as two separate programs. What I am, you know, seeing here, which I think I reflect the opinion of many of the townships, that they like their regional program. But what can we as the county do to enhance it to make the services better for the people? And this is an answer to that. You see what I'm saying? Is like, we're gonna put on top of that, that we can provide funding to shorten those wait times and to try to extend through ride share services. Where, you know, buses are not practical. If you talk to the people at Pace, if using buses was practical for that, it would have been done already. But there's a big cost in moving a vehicle that requires X amount of people for one person only. And that has been the major, like, stoppage for this, for anything getting better. So the ride sharing seemed to provide a pretty flexible solution to that. And so there's a lot of things in here, you know, and, you know, whatever the committee decides, I mean, we need to hash this out. We need to vote on it. And if we can recommend it, pass it on, and we've done our job. If not, we're back to the drawing board.
Okay, let me take a look at this again and see if taking that out will address the issue, but I know that Member Newquist wanted to make,
Oh, I'm sorry, Denise,
I'm sorry.
let me get you in a second. You're 7?
Okay. And I was a member of the former Access Will County Committee, and I'm going to repeat what Elaine said, saying it differently. Access Will County is the regional program, and we negotiate with each of the townships based on what they want. If they want to have additional bus service, then that's will be part of the agreement, and what that rate is will be a part of that agreement, just like we did with Will Ride. We've talked to DePage, we've talked to some other areas. So all of that is already covered in here. So I'm not sure what the value of this is at all, other than what we already have. What we already have is an agreement that allows us to provide service and to negotiate with other townships at their leisure or by their choice around what rates they want to pay, whether they want to be included, how much that will be, what kind of service it will be. I don't know what else you're looking for, and I would have to vote no on this.
Okay, so, I think the main difference between what we have now and what this says is that we're offering the use of a ride sharing to solve two of the problems, which are the main problems in our dial-a-ride, which is, you know, elderly people getting stuck waiting 3 hours, which that problem has not been solved by the current busing systems. And also to extend beyond borders, which has not been solved. So those items are addressed here and are pretty significant in trying to solve those problems. And thank you for, you know, reaffirming that fact that it's Access Will County. That's, I beg your pardon? So with all due respect, the ad hoc committee was created to make some sort of recommendations. This is what we have come up with so far. And if this isn't sufficient, we can go back to the drawing board next month and we can start from scratch. So that's where we're at. So I just thought that we were going to look at this, hash it out, and make our recommendation. It's not a law. There's no need for any sort of, you know, fights or anything. It's a recommendation. And I think early on, we said that resolution should be recommendation, and where it says Will Ride, it should say Access Will County to correct this language. And all we're trying to do is make a recommendation here. So what? Well, I'm sorry, was there, oh, wait, sorry, hold on a second. Okay. Oh, did I miss her? There you go.
What I'm saying to you is that the wordsmithing does not correct the issue for me. We have a program. There are ways in place within that program to mitigate the issues that it's time for us to step back. I would suggest that we say we cancel this committee, and our recommendation is that we follow the guidelines set forth in Access Will County.
Okay.
Which allows for all the negotiations that you described to be worked out already.
I hear what you're
There's nothing
saying.
further needed.
I personally would not want to waste a whole year's work and saying we couldn't figure anything out when we have two very good solutions here. And these solutions at least be proposed and offered. They don't have to be taken. They're just offered. And it shows that this committee has done its work. So sorry if, you feel like it's been a waste of time and that these
It's not that it's a waste
solutions
of
are
time,
not,
it's already been taken
are not
care
going to
of.
solve anything, but the purpose of an ad hoc committee is to examine it, come up with a recommendation. And I personally don't feel making the recommendation that we have no solution is going to be adequate. I think that there is a solution. It's been offered here. And I guess we could vote on whether or not, the use of rideshare and, is going to be good enough or not. But if you wanted to make a motion to remove a paragraph, or if anybody wants to make a motion to remove some statement, we could vote on it. Otherwise, we'll turn it over to the executive committee. The executive committee can decide whether or not the recommendations are what they want to propose to the full county board. That's it. Okay, 4.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm really confused
Mhm.
because I thought that the recommendations regarding ride sharing with like Uber was all part of the Access Will County plan that we just passed. And I thought a lot of that was based on work that the committee had done.
There was-
So I must be, I wasn't on the committee, so.
There was no plan. It's
Well,
all
we
being
did.
evaluated and studied.
I thought we passed the Access Will County plan, like
There was no
not that.
ride sharing, no mention of any of that. This is all us, our committee. And it needs to go to the board so that they can understand that and at least hear it.
Well, okay, so, but to, another comment, just to go back to what Member Hickey was asking about with the centralized mass transportation system. Based on our discussions like at various board meetings and presentations, I was always under the impression that the centralized transportation system really referred to like our own proprietary system of buses. Like we would, contract with buses and run the whole program. Whereas what we're recommending, and I think what this is recommending, what Access Will County actually recommended, was that we take advantage of the regional programs that are already in place instead of, reinventing the wheel and creating a whole new system. Just use the programs that are already in place and supplement them, as we can or as we negotiate. So that's where I think it's just the terminology that might be getting confusing. I think the intent was to open it up to any township that was interested, just to not reinvent the wheel and create our own single point of contact transportation service, if that makes sense. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, are you guys not on the committee? Oh, okay. Then, let's see, Jackie.
Member
Oh.
Richmond, I
Oh,
believe,
I'm
is on
sorry, I
the
didn't,
committee.
were you on before? She's been on a long time. Are you on the committee?
I was filling in for Katie, but
She's been waiting a long time, so I just,
Okay, I was kind of surprised to see the length of this. But I look at it, this is a solution in search of a problem. We approved a program, Access Will. I could understand if you want to make some recommendations about the program and say, you'd like to see Access Will offer the Uber and Lyft option. But I do know that Uber and Lyft are already available through Pace in certain areas. Now, in my township, you cannot do the rideshare. It's not available. I don't know what the deal is. I don't understand how all that works. That's why I'm really happy that the county executive has a person in charge of this that can kind of figure all that out. I can tell you from speaking with our township supervisor, he wants in. He wants in, not only to enhance what the residents already have available, but to perhaps lower some of our costs for the program that we already have available. He wants in. He hasn't been asked, but he wants in. And as soon as he's asked, I'm sure the answer will be, yeah, where do I sign on the dotted line? And if asked and if included, and if that includes Uber and Lyft, we would be thrilled because we don't have that now. But yeah, this is a program in search of a program. I mean, we already have a program. Like I said, a solution in search of a problem. And I really didn't like the way it was laid out. I know a lot of work went into it by this committee. I wasn't on the committee, but like 24 whereases or however many there are here, and further be it resolves, it just seems like a bit much. But I understand you want to change it to recommendation, then I would just list, the 2 or 3 recommendations, whatever they are, and leave it at that. It doesn't take 3 pages. I feel like a lawyer wrote this. Chuck?
Got a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm a person that likes to be straight to the point. It doesn't mean that, I have any problem with the people who wrote it. It is so long as to be confusing. And I would agree with Member Hickey that, in this whereas number 9 makes it sound like we're against it, but we've already passed it. So you could be against it if you want, but it's passed, it's done. And so now if you want to make a recommendation for, certain parts of it, I think that's great. Make that recommendation in a couple of sentences and move along, because the program's already in existence. So there's not really a need for this committee anymore, as I see it. I thought today's purpose was to make your recommendation to bring it to the executive board so that the committee could be dissolved. So.
Okay, speaking of wordsmithing, okay, the purpose, okay, but just to address, the purpose isn't for the committee to be dissolved. The purpose is for the committee to give a recommendation. And there's a lot of whereases in there to express different views from different townships and people involved, different stakeholders. That's all that is. And these are recommendations, not laws. Nothing could happen. I mean, once this goes into the executive committee, they could just say no, and it's done. So I don't know what we're all worried about. I'll change the language, to try to make it not so, or you all can change the language right now. Anyway, we'll go to 8 and then we'll come back to you, Sherry.
So I have not sat in on any of the access meetings. I read the 180-page booklet and that, but I have sat in on the Chicagoland Metropolitan Public Transportation System. And the thing I've heard them say is we're short $750 million in 2026. So I don't know how how anybody's going to afford anything without going back to the taxpayer, whether it's for our local type of project or I just see this as nothing but at some point in time next year, we're going to be hit with a $750 million shortfall. So either services are going to have to be cut or taxes are going to have to go up drastically because all the COVID money is going to dry up. So I don't know how anybody's going to pay for anything like this. That's a big problem. So that's just my 2 cents. So.
Okay, well, I was on the committee and I know it's taken a while for us to get to this point. I think that we didn't make a recommendation earlier and that's part of the issue that we have before us now, but we did already pass, Access Will County is in existence right now. Now, what we do with it as moving forward, that's probably to be determined. But we, right now, as part of this committee, our purpose is to give something to the executive committee. If it's this, then that's fine. I'd like to read the in conclusion part. In conclusion, the governing body reaffirms its commitment to promoting local, efficient, and personalized transportation solutions that enhance community connectedness, bolster economic development, and prioritize the well-being of all residents in Will County. And I think that's basically what we're saying, right? So we can make that recommendation to the executive committee and be done.
Well, I would also like to add the two solutions to the current problem, the shortfalls in our, to that, statement, which is the utilization of ride sharing. Oops, could you do that again?
I would love to see us do that, but I'm not certain that's something we can actually do as a public body. Elaine might need to come back up. Because as I said, our township would like to participate in that, but we're not able to. And I don't know what stops us other than PACE is only allowing that in certain places, I think. But if that is something that we can offer here at the county level, 10 miles, $10, that is a bargain and a half. Because I can tell you, I can't go 10 miles from my house in an Uber privately for
So,
$10.
Elaine, could you address why her township can't get in a ride share program?
Member Trenier, the main reason why DuPage Township has not been engaged with is because we don't have the fiscal capacity within Access Will County to cover that right now. So
I think that wasn't quite exactly his
Oh,
question.
I'm
I
sorry.
think he was speaking specifically to the fact that we can't get into it through our current dial-a-ride program with PACE. And I don't
like,
know that you could answer that question.
I might be able to, utilizing Uber and Lyft, those things?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's the question?
I did not know that.
Oh,
I
that's
thought she did not have a dial ride and I was wondering why she did not.
We have a dial-a-ride. We just can't access the Uber Lyft part. And I don't know that Access Will is going to change that for us. Even if we were to become a part of Access Will, if that would free up the opportunity. And again, if it has to do with dollars, I totally understand that. But our township does want to participate in the program. We want our residents to be able to go more than just the borders of our township.
So I know that PACE has started looking at utilizing Uber, Lyft. There's another one, I don't remember the name of it, but they are utilizing those to help kind of fill the gaps, right? Where if the bus isn't able to come get someone, they can get an Uber, they can get a Lyft, something like that. The issue PACE has been running into, to, unofficially speak on their behalf,
No drivers.
it's a driver shortage, it's an availability,
Mhm.
because, Uber availability in Bolingbrook is different than in Joliet, than in
Mhm.
Wilmington, than in Peatone. So it doesn't create the same level of dependability from a ridership standpoint. So, my answer is it's complicated,
Mhm.
and PACE is trying to work through that.
In the current Access Will program, do we offer this $5 dial or Uber Lyft opportunity?
No.
Okay, so we're asking, if I'm understanding this recommendation correctly, that we spend more tax money to assist people who need transportation. And that tax money would be the $5 that $5 they're gonna pay, $5 we're gonna pay. And if it takes them, who makes up the difference? Because if I'm an Uber driver and you're asking me to take somebody 10 miles and I'm gonna get $10 and not 1 penny more, even though the normal Uber rate is 25, who's making up the $15 that I'm losing out on by dragging your sorry so-and-so to wherever you want to go? And thank you, Member Richmond, for shaking your head, because I don't think this can be done for $5.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that I don't believe that you can answer the question about us asking for more taxes, okay? So just to be clarified, that. The idea of a 555 is the 1/3 portion of the funds would be provided by the county, that there will be a small budgeting increase for that to take care of our elderly and our
The disabled population.
the disabled, developmentally
Just disabled.
impaired
Disabled population.
population. I'm just trying to include everybody, try to.
Disabled is
come up with
everybody.
it. So we're putting extra money aside for them.
Mhm.
Okay, but we're sharing the cost proportionally with the townships and the people.
Well,
The
they-
people in the townships that these rides are coming from would be the ones giving the $5, and the person gives $5. So the people that are not using the service in the agricultural areas are probably, of course, there is going to be a tax that they are going to have to pay based on the funds that we allocate for Access Will County. It's only going to be 1/3 the cost for these extra rides.
But we don't have the right as a county to force a township to pay $5 a ride.
That's why it will be offered. These are recommendations. These are not laws. We
Okay.
don't have the ability to impose this on anybody. This is a recommendation for a program. That's it.
Okay.
That's, we, you know, we're not going to make a law here. We're just making a recommendation for it to move on. And if Access Will County says, you know what, that's a good idea with the ride share services, you know, if we're gonna implement that. Thanks, ad hoc committee from Access Will County. Okay, so any other, we have Sherry over here.
I think I was already on.
What,
Go ahead.
okay, go ahead.
I move that we put forth as a recommendation, the governing body reaffirms a commitment to promoting local, efficient, and personalized transportation solutions that enhance community connectedness, bolster economic development, and prioritize well-being of all residents in Will County, and request that quarterly reports be made to the county board.
Second.
Now I have discussion, if that's okay. Just a quick comment about the ride share. I think it's a great idea and concept. We have no idea if that amount of money will cover the cost. We have no idea. I mean, we would really need some serious planning and looking at nuts and bolts, but I do think in theory, it is a good idea. Now, to your motion, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I also really like on the last page, the second, further it be resolved that the county will seek partnerships with local businesses and healthcare providers to broaden the scope of the Will Ride program, ensuring that it effectively addresses the diverse needs of all residents. I don't know if we want to get that far in the weeds, but I really like the idea of partnering with, more like hospitals, doctors' offices, if that's possible.
Jackie, you next.
I would just add to Member Newquist, I would just change the word to Access Will Program, not Will Ride. And I just found it interesting because the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whereas talks about a $5. Well, actually, it talks about one $5 and then the county picking up the rest, which is different than what you just said on the 555, which is nowhere in here. So, but that's a moot point. I'm not voting, but I would support Member Winfrey and Member Newquist wholeheartedly. Just for information.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I believe the two whereases speak to the three payments. So the first one speaks to the rider, and the second one speaks to the county and the township. So, and if I could, I would just like to, however you want to put it, also add looking into the implementation, addition of using, ride-sharing services to accommodate the problems of long wait times and traveling across, township lines. Any further discussion? Okay. Guess we'll take a vote. Roll call.
Motion is that we, towards our recommendation.
I'm sorry, Denise, can you put your microphone on, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on a second.
That's the, this link.
With the addition of, and the final sentence would be, and request that quarterly reports be made to the county board.
And we had a second, right? Okay. Do.
Hickey, Logan,
Yes.
Newquist,
Yes.
Winfrey, Butler.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, well, I think we have discussed this enough that all people on the board should probably have heard it by now. So as long as the idea of ride sharing is out there, I don't care. Okay. Any other old business? All right, no new business? Any public comment? Is anyone online for a public comment? No one in the audience? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion twist.
All in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned.